Welcome to this Mindset Monday session where I'm going to walk you through a couple of things that I think will be really helpful this week. It's going to talk about the roles that you play in your life. We're going to look at some of the expectations that you hold for each of those roles. We're going to look at some of the ways that you can get clearer on building a life outside of your job or your work so that you feel more energy and that you feel that your work and your role is more in perspective and doesn't feel like it's taking over your life. Then we're going to look at any of the changes that come from creating clarity over those things wider than work in your life, what you can do to make sure that you're more likely to take action, and then a really simple technique that you can do to help you be able to feel aligned with your values and how you spend your time. Super simple, but really impactful. And so when we think about you, when we think about your life, when you think about the day-to-day living, you will wear many hats. You'll wear many uniforms or identities in the week. And often it can feel a little bit blurry. And it can feel a little bit like you are trying to live up to all of these expectations. And so when we do that, it can feel unsure of who we are at the end of the day and who we want to be for each of those roles as well. And so what I would invite you to do is to think about, what are those roles that you play? Who are you in your week? Are you a dad, a mom, a husband, a wife, a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a colleague, a friend, a boss, a business owner, an entrepreneur? What does that look like for you? Because when you get clear on them, you can then start to create your own expectations for each of those areas, each of those roles, rather than the ones that you inherit. So you can intentionally create those expectations rather than reactively inherit them from other people. And then that means you're going to be living up to them more often. You're going to feel more progress, more motivation, more benefit, more like a sense of just being more aligned with who you want to be in those roles rather than the comparison of who you're told to be by everybody else that you see online. For example, as a husband and as a brother and as a friend, if I was to take what I need to do from Instagram or Facebook or any of those kind of platforms, I'd be buying my wife holidays often, the best of jewelry, cars, weekly, right? I'd be taking my friends to Vegas. We'd be partying all the time. I'd be just spending time all the time with my family. None of that stuff is realistic or achievable or possible. And so I can feel often like I'm not living up to the expectations of each of those areas. So instead, when I create my expectations for myself within each of those roles, that is the invitation for you. How will you choose? Who will you choose to be in each of those areas? How will you create the version of you and the expectations that you want to hold yourself to in each of those areas? Again, rather than reactively inherit, you intentionally choose. And that's going to make a massive difference to, again, how you feel in each of those areas. Another thing that can help put work into perspective, because again, it can feel like it's all consuming, is just to do a simple exercise like this, which is the Wheel of Life. You put each of the areas that you want to pay attention to, potentially again around occupational, material, personal, social, and you map each of these. For example, I've just ranked 3 of these just as an example. Charity is pretty high here. And often some of these things can go unnoticed if we're not paying attention, or again, if the blur of how work feels can be too overwhelming. So what I would invite you to do is to fill the first version of this in for yourself, like this, blank, record this for yourself. And then where things are high, maybe you practice gratitude there, or you just dial up a little bit of attention and energy there so that you kind of further increase that. Where areas are a little bit lower, they might be areas where you choose to spend a little bit of time improving them. Typically, focus on roughly 2 to 3 of these. The reason for that is it's not overwhelming. You're not trying to change everything at once. You're trying to narrow your focus, take action, build momentum, and then feel that progress that you can take to other areas as well in your life. The next is when you're thinking about those actions, think about Goldilocks. Anytime you can get Disney into a presentation, you should take it. So this has got to do with Atomic Habits, James Clear, and his perspective on the Goldilocks zone, which is when you think about tasks, most of us overcommit and we aim too high and too difficult for some of the tasks, and we get overwhelmed and we fail. Or we aim too low, and what happens is we hit that area and we get bored. It's just boring. It's not challenging enough to even stimulate movement forward. Where there's this Goldilocks zone, which is that just right difficulty. And so you want to be kind of like balancing or tempering your level of activity or the difficulty of your activity with what's within that Goldilocks zone. Am I too overwhelmed or not even challenged enough to take action? And then you kind of build momentum again, taking the just right difficulty type tasks. That's going to propel you forward. The next thing is, in any of these areas that we've highlighted as areas to improve or whatever that looks like, often what we will do is we will not schedule it. And if we say that our family is important and we want to improve our relationships, but there's no time scheduled in your calendar, you cannot expect it to improve, and you cannot expect to feel aligned with your life. So feeling alignment, feeling like you're on the right track, like you're doing the things that are important to you, it must show up in your calendar. Or else it's just you're saying stuff that's important and you're not following through with it. And typically, I would invite people to think about their calendar in 3 ways. And this is counterintuitive because we do it the opposite way around. Start with self, time for you. What recharges you? Who recharges you? Spend time doing that. Recovery, sleep, hobbies, interests, all that kind of stuff first. Next is relationships. Who do you want to spend time with more? Who gives you energy? All that kind of stuff. That's relationships. Next is work. Typically, we'll schedule work. We'll take up 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, blocked, never touching anything outside of that. Then we'll think about everybody else. Then we'll think about ourselves, and we get the scraps of the week rather than carving out quality time for ourselves. So I would invite you to think about self first, relationships next, work last. In that order, you will feel, again, more energy. More energy when you're looking after yourself translates to better relationships because there's a better version of you going into those relationships. You'll also have a better energized version of yourself going into work. You will get better results. You will get better feedback, better quality of output and performance in work because it's a better version of you going into those conversations, but also into those tasks. So that's how I would schedule your week. What is important? Who is important? Put time in the calendar for that, or it will not show up. That's Mindset Monday. Hopefully some useful tips. Let me know what you found most valuable. And I would love to know what you'll try, what you'll practice, what you're going to test. And I look forward to hearing your feedback. This is Vitamin P Coaching, and thanks a million for watching.